Florida loves to flex the crystal clear springs, but here's the catch. The ocean is sneaking into your tap, not in 2100. Now, we're talking saltwater pushing inland as seas rise and old pipes struggle. Virginia Key? Up roughly 8 inches since 1950. Miami Beach? About 6 inches in just 3 decades. Today, 64% of Florida's freshwater comes from underground aquifers. When those get salty, your options are pricey treatment or new water sources. Stay with me because in the next few minutes, I'll show you where the salt is moving, how fast, and what that means for your next glass of water. Before we continue, hit subscribe so you never miss the latest updates. Florida sells you spring breaker water vibes, but here's the catch. Some utilities are acting like club bouncers because the fresh stuff is running VIP only. Clear springs on the brochure, yes. But behind the scenes, they're guarding intakes, juggling wells, and praying the next king tide doesn't add salt to the punch bowl. Here's the thing. The postcard is all beaches and mermaids and glass-bottom boats. Under your feet, it's a Swiss cheese limestone world moving water in every direction. That glossy blue? It's riding on a sponge that leaks. Florida looks like a bottled water commercial, but the plumbing below is messy and easily pushed around. Growth cranks the demand. More people, more lawns, more hotels, same old pipes. Add rising seas and you've got a system designed for a shallower ocean, trying to perform on hard mode. You turn the tap, the aquifer loses a little pressure. Do that at state scale and the balance starts tipping towards salt. It's real. It's happening. Think of it like refilling your Brita while someone keeps dumping ocean water into the reservoir, feeding your sink. You top off, they dump more, you pump harder. The salty side grins and slides a little closer. It's the kind of silent tug of war you don't notice until your coffee tastes tired. Most of Florida's freshwater comes from underground. When that's the main bank account, salt is the overdraft fee. As seas rise, the coastal groundwater gets saltier. That's not a theory. It's physics. Taller ocean, heavier push. The aquifer is porous so it doesn't fight. It negotiates, and the ocean negotiates like a landlord who knows you can't move. Now match gravity flow drainage with higher seas. Storm drains expect outs to be lower than ins. High tide shows up like a rubber stopper. Your street fills. The canals hold. The water table stays high and brackish. Suddenly, wells near the coast start reading like a culinary experiment nobody asked for. And sea level isn't the same everywhere. Relative rise is local. Land settling here, currents shifting there. Southeast Florida has watched the trend line tilt steeper in recent decades. That's how you get nuisance flooding turning into routine calendar events. And every event is a tiny salt push that doesn't fully retreat before the next one hits. Meanwhile, the pipes are old. Pumps fail, valves stick. When infrastructure cracks, it's like poking holes in your bucket as you're trying to carry clean water uphill. The ocean doesn't need a door, it just needs a hairline seam and time. Each break is an assist to the salt, and each repair is a scramble to hold the line until the next storm. You hear about conservation days and seasonal restrictions, and it sounds like lawn drama. It's not. It's pressure management. Reduce withdrawals, slow the inland creep, buy time. Because once salt walks in, treatment gets expensive fast, blending options get weird, and the politics of who pays start to burn hotter than July asphalt. So yes, the clear water brand is real. The swimming holes are still gorgeous. But the supply chain that makes that glass at your sink crisp is getting a steady drip of coastal salt. Drip becomes a trickle. A trickle becomes a pulse. And a pulse shows up at your meter as a higher bill, and at the lab as numbers you don't want in your tea. So, where's the salt sneaking in first? Let's pull up the gauges. If the ocean isn't in your kitchen yet, check the ruler at the pier. That stick is the tell. It's the quiet gossip line between your tap and the tide. You want proof, not vibes? Start there. Virginia Key keeps the receipts. Since 1950, it's up roughly 8 inches. Miami Beach has racked about 6 inches in around 30 years. That's not background noise. That's a trend with elbows, nudging everything inland. You don't need a PhD to see the slope. You just need eyes and a calendar. An inch sounds cute until it doesn't. Because this isn't a one-and-done bump. It's relentless. It's a slow-motion piston pushing on every pore in that limestone. Each click upward adds weight to the ocean side of the system. Think of the aquifer like a delicate clamp on your freshwater. Every extra inch turns the screw a little tighter. You won't hear it, you'll taste it later. Here's the thing, baseline matters. When the daily average rides higher, the flashy highs ride even higher. Stack king tides on top, and you get salt pulses that slip past coastal defenses and into canals. Those pulses don't need a hurricane. They ride the calendar. They creep into shallow wells and hang around longer because the floor's lifted. Let that sink in. The data says Southeast Florida isn't on the same schedule as everywhere else. Relative sea level rise is local. Currents, land motion, regional patterns. Down here, the pace has kicked up in recent decades. That's why nuisance flooding graduated from quirky headline to weekly chore. Tires in brackish water, parking lots with barnacle auditions, and behind that mess, the aquifer taking hits it didn't sign up for. Back to those gauges. They're not just for boaters and weather nerds, they're the pressure gauge for the freshwater lens under your feet. Higher ocean, stronger push, the saline front edges landward because it can. It doesn't need to break a door, it just needs time and a rising baseline. When the line moves, well fields near the coast start flirting with thresholds and operators get less sleep. Every inch is leverage. Picture a vise on a workshop table. Turn the handle a quarter, not much happens. Keep turning, slow and steady, and suddenly the wood creaks. That creak? That's your aquifer under stress. Add a seasonal high tide and the handle jumps another notch. The squeeze doesn't let go the next day either. It resets to a tighter normal. And here's what nobody tells you. More frequent high tide flooding isn't just annoying for sidewalks and Teslas. It's a delivery system for salt. Streets flood, drains backflow, canals spike. That brackish surge pushes the interface a hair inland. Maybe it slips back a little at low tide, but not all the way. Then next week does it again. Ratchet, click. Ratchet, click. So yes, the ruler at the pier is boring until you link it to your faucet. Those inches translate to pressure. Pressure translates to the saline freshwater boundary, inching toward production wells. The chemistry starts to drift. Treatment settings need tweaks. Margins shrink. Operators start blending, hunting for sweeter pulls farther inland, or spending more power just to hold quality. Mini payoff. The ocean's extra inches aren't abstract. They're active force pressing on the aquifers that feed your tap. Each uptick is a little more salt at the gate, a little less room for error, and a lot more work to keep your glass clean. Now, what happens underground when that pressure shows up? There's a moving boundary under Florida, freshwater on one side, seawater on the other. And the ocean's got the home field advantage now. You can't see it, but it's there, sliding back and forth like a line in the sand that keeps getting redrawn a little farther inland. It's real, it's happening. So here's the thing. Florida's aquifers aren't big underground lakes. They're porous limestone, karst, full of holes and tunnels that move water fast. That rock is why springs look like a filter ad. It's also why the boundary between fresh and salty water is slippery. The interface isn't a wall, it's a blend zone that shifts with pressure. Raise the ocean a few inches, and that push reaches farther through the rock. Drop groundwater levels by pumping, and the boundary answers by creeping inland. Two forces, one lens, constant shove. Growth turns the knob the wrong way. More taps, bigger lawns, new construction pulling from the same wells. When utilities pump harder to meet demand, groundwater heads dip. Lower head means less resistance to the ocean's push. You're basically unlocking the front door and holding it open. The system doesn't crash overnight, it drifts. And drift is dangerous because you don't react until it's expensive. Think milkshake physics. You've got a thick shake in one cup, soda in the other. Sip slow and the straw holds your shake. Yank too hard and the soda next door slides over the rim into your cup. Same vibe here. Overpumping creates the pull. Rising seas add the shove. Suddenly your fresh zone gets a little brinier, a little closer to the wells you depend on. Florida's coastal aquifers are karstic and highly permeable. Water doesn't crawl, it moves. Mix overpumping with sea level rise and you get salinity migrating inland. Not a sprint, more like a ratchet. Click forward during a high tide or a dry spell, maybe a half click back in a rainy stretch. But over years the clicks add up. That creeping line doesn't send a calendar invite. Operators notice it first in the numbers, then in the headaches. Now add salt's sneak attacks. King tides and storm surges don't need Category 5 drama to make trouble. They shove brackish water into canals, marshes, and shallow well zones. That pulse sticks around, dries down into the rock, and sets a new normal a shade saltier than last month. You see flooded curbs twice a year. The aquifer feels a little shove every time and keeps the bruise. Here's the money part you actually feel. About 2/3 of Florida's freshwater comes from groundwater. When that turns even a bit salty, treatment costs jump. Reverse osmosis, ion exchange, chemical tweaks. None of that is cheap, and salt is hard on equipment. You pay in energy and maintenance. And once a well field crosses a threshold, you're not just blending your way out. You're scouting new sites, drilling deeper, or building pipelines. Translation, rate hikes. Some utilities are already catching the taste and operational edge of this. Pools near the coast start reading higher conductivity. Managers shift pumping schedules, rotate wells, and chase sweeter water farther inland. It's a game of inches with lab reports as the scoreboard. And every fix buys time, not a miracle. So here's what nobody tells you. The exact traits that make Florida's water feel clean. The porous rock, the fast recharge, the easy flow, also hand salt a shortcut. It's a feature and a flaw. You get clarity in a spring, and you get a wide open path for the ocean when pressure tilts. Let that sink in. Mini payoff. Florida's best tasting water rides a fragile balance. The rock that delivers the flavor also opens the door to salt when we pump hard and the sea rises. And when the system gets stressed, the pipes tell on us. Think your water system is tough? One big storm, and the sewers go DEFCON 1. Not theoretical. You get a surge, the drains choke, and the whole network starts playing hot potato with stuff you do not want near your water. Here's the thing. Old pipes plus higher tides equals spillovers, backups, and sketchy cross contacts. Florida's networks were built for lower baselines. Gravity did the work. Now the ocean elbows its way up the outfalls and gravity shrugs. The result isn't just puddles, it's brackish street water pushing into storm drains and sneaking toward the parts of the system that need to stay clean to keep your glass clear. Gravity-fed drainage fails when the outfall is already full. High tide acts like a cork. Rain shows up, the system goes backward, and manholes gurgle like soda fountains. Treatment plants? They get hammered after storms, then the power flickers and everything downstream backs up. Wastewater overflows after hurricanes are a real pattern, not a fluke. Ian did it. Helene did it. When flow spikes past design, you see advisories, bypasses, and crews sprinting with vacuum trucks. It feels like trying to drain a sink when the pipe is blowing bubbles back at you. You plunge, it burps, and the water level laughs at you. Same with coastal outfalls during king tides. Street inlets look open, but the receiving canal is high, so the water just sits. Then a car plows through, splashes brackish soup onto lawns, and that mess seeps down toward shallow lines and utility corridors. And salt in the system? It's not just a flavor problem, it eats gear. Chlorides chew through metal. Pumps corrode, valves seize, and electronics fail early. Treatment chemistry goes sideways because salt changes how disinfectants behave and how membranes respond. Reverse osmosis hates grit and saline swings. You burn more energy, swap membranes sooner, and file more maintenance tickets. It's death by 1,000 invoices. Sea level rise turns high tide flooding from a seasonal oddity into a scheduling headache. The higher baseline compromises reliable delivery and wastewater management. Trucks can't access sites during those windows. Crews can't open electrical cabinets in standing water. Lift stations short if seals fail. Even if your well field reads fine, the distribution side wobbles under tidal pressure. Orlando felt this from a different angle. After heavy hits, they asked residents to ease flushing and water use because the system was overloaded. That's Central Florida, not even on the front row of the ocean show. Now imagine coastal plants juggling both surge and salinity while the tide holds the drains shut. You can see why "please stop laundry" posts show up on city feeds after storms. So here's what nobody tells you. A lot of the fix isn't sexy. It's backflow preventers that don't jam. It's outfalls raised to a future tide line, not last decades. It's flood-proofed electrical rooms so a spring tide doesn't knock out a lift station. It's stormwater capture to shave peak flows before they blindside wastewater plants. Every one of those line items costs real money and political patience. You want a payoff? Even if the aquifer holds, the pipes can't deliver clean water consistently when tides pin the drains and storms overload plants. That's the catch. You can have sweet water underground and still fail at the tap because the network above it can't move or treat under tidal pressure. And when utilities try to fight back, the rulebook gets weird. Pull salt out of groundwater, save the city, accidentally starve a wetland. Welcome to Florida's no-win water puzzle. You solve one problem and a new one taps you on the shoulder with a clipboard and a fine. You're not ready for what's next. So here's the thing. South of Miami, you've got the Turkey Point cooling canal system with a salty plume pressing inland. Right next door, there's the model lands, the big mitigation bank area tied to Everglades-style wetland restoration. Two goals sit side by side. Keep drinking water fresh and keep wetlands alive with the right timing and flow. Pull too hard to retract the plume, and you can yank fresh water out of the places those wetlands need it most. Ease up to protect the marsh, and the salt keeps creeping toward well fields. That's the trade. But here's the catch. When utilities and operators try to suck back the brackish zone, regulations step in with guardrails. Wetlands aren't decoration. They're protected assets with their own water budgets. The restoration playbook wants steady, managed freshwater moving through the sawgrass and mangroves. The plume playbook wants aggressive pulls to reverse the salinity gradient. Those instructions don't always rhyme, especially with the ocean pushing higher each year. It's whack-a-mole with water. Push here, something pops there. Nudge groundwater levels down to reel in the plume, and marsh soils can dry, oxidize, and lose the very functions they're supposed to restore. Ease the pumps to keep the wetland wet, and coastal salinity lines edge past another monitoring well. Both sides show up with charts. Both sides can be right and still leave you one king tide away from a worse map. Local agencies have flagged exactly this. Intrusion into coastal wetlands is a real risk if withdrawals or canal tweaks pull too much fresh flow away from the fringe. On the flip, operators argue that overdrainage and deeper pulls could backfire. Salty rebound, unstable levels, more maintenance, more energy, and more chance of pulling contaminants you didn't bargain for. No villain, just physics, timelines, and permits colliding. Here's a concrete example. That coastal edge is laced with culverts, about 40 links that act like a freshwater lifeline. Adjust their operations a bit, and you can send relief water into the right cells at the right tide. But tweak them the wrong way or at the wrong time, and salinity slides back through those same openings. It's like setting thermostats across a mansion where half the windows face an ocean with a mind of its own. 1 degree off, and the humidity wins. Mitigation banking adds another layer. You're not just hydrating a marsh, you're meeting credit deadlines and restoration milestones. The clock runs on quarterly reports and yearly targets. But salinity remediation wants actions now, not in the next permitting cycle. Those calendars clash. A fix that helps a monitoring point this month might miss a mitigation deliverable next quarter, and vice versa. The fundamental challenge sits right here. Can you protect both drinking water supplies and coastal wetlands under rising seas and competing demands? Governance is messy. Every lever has a trade-off. Delay? That just gives salt more time to move inland. One expert framed a possible path where water is directed to the mitigation bank during parts of the year without making intrusion worse. But even she called that ideal elusive because of all the unresolved pieces moving at once. Mini payoff: this isn't a science fail, it's a rules and reality collision. Pick speed, risk wetlands. Pick patience, risk wells. Meanwhile, the ocean keeps raising the stakes. So what does this mean for your tap and your bill? When your aquifer goes salty, your wallet goes crispy. You pay for it at the tap, and again when the city sends you a cheerful email about a rate adjustment. Translation: your cheap groundwater lifestyle just turned premium. Here's the thing. Traditional groundwater is the bargain bin. Pump, disinfect, deliver, low energy, low chemistry. Then salt creeps in and the menu changes. You're looking at desalination, advanced membranes, ion exchange, or hunting for cleaner sources to blend. Each step stacks cost. Each gadget needs power, maintenance, and people who know how to keep it alive on a summer afternoon when the grid is sighing. Desalination sounds sleek until you plug in the power bill. It's energy-hungry and equipment-heavy. Blending only works if you can find enough sweeter water nearby, which a lot of coastal systems can't, because brackish fingers don't respect property lines. New surface sources mean land deals, permits, and fights over who gets first sip. And long pipelines? That's where regional politics show up with sharp elbows. It's like swapping your $2 drip coffee for a daily $8 latte because the tap is brackish. Same morning routine, very different bill. And that latte comes with a service plan. Membranes foul, pumps need parts. Operators babysit pressure and chemistry so your faucet doesn't taste like a low-sodium ocean. Let that sink in. Utilities aren't hiding it. They face higher treatment costs just to strip salt and handle the corrosion that tags along. Chlorides chew metal. Electrical gear sulks in humidity and salt mist. So you see line items grow. Replacement membranes sooner, bigger power draws, more lab work, more overtime when storms push brackish pulses through the network. Those are not one-time hits. They're subscriptions. Then there's the rate math. To build resilience, cities reach for levers you feel fast. Base rate hikes, impact fees on new builds, seasonal surcharges when the system runs hottest. You wanted a summer sprinkler day? Cool. Now it costs more or it's capped at weird hours because the utility is balancing salinity, energy prices, and a flood calendar that keeps changing. Mid-century sea rise projections point to more frequent high tide flooding. That's not just wet ankles, it's extra operational stress and economic drag. Crews detour because streets pond. Plants throttle intakes during brackish surges. Work windows shrink while maintenance piles up. Reliability drops when the tide chart steals your schedule. Every delay adds cost. Every workaround burns money and patience. So, what does the bill feel like at home? First, a few bucks more on the fixed charge, then a new tier where heavy users pay a premium because peak demand pushes pumps and draws down heads. Developers see impact fees climb because new taps mean new risk. And when the next big upgrade lands, raised outfalls, hardening a plant, backup power, you meet the capital plan in the form of a multi-year increase. But here's what nobody tells you. Paying early is cheaper than scrambling. If leaders and voters say yes to resilience now, hardening, smarter stormwater, inland well fields, managed recharge, the curve flattens. You spend more than yesterday, less than the panic price tomorrow. Delay turns small fixes into mega projects that arrive with bond measures and angry town halls. Mini payoff. The cheap water era fades as salt intrusion grows. You either fund the pivot, membranes, buffers, smarter ops, or you pay more later in outages, boil notices, and emergency rentals that cost like a last-minute holiday flight. It's real, it's happening. So what actually works in Florida's terrain today? No silver bullet. Just a stack of moves that add years to your fresh glass. Not flashy, not cheap, but they work together, and that's the point. Here's the thing. You harden the plants so they don't blink during storms. You raise the outfalls so king tides don't shove salt back up the pipes. You grab stormwater fast. Store it, clean it, stage it, so rain becomes supply, not chaos. You run managed aquifer recharge to push fresh head back into the rock, and you restore coastal wetlands to act like salt buffers. One move buys you a season. Stack them and you buy time. Every fix fights for dollars and patience. New pumps or new parks? Raise a road or raise a pipe. People get bored, budgets get tight, and then a high tide drops a not-so-subtle reminder across your driveway. And some fixes step on others. Stormwater capture wants big basins. Wetlands want room to breathe. You can do both, but you need sequencing and a mayor who can sell nuance at a town hall where everyone just wants a pothole filled. Think layered defenses like your house electronics. Surge protectors to eat the spikes. Battery backups to ride the blips. A generator to carry you through the long outage. Water is the same. Flood walls and dry-proofed electrical rooms take the hit. Elevated outfalls stop the backflow. Backup power keeps treatment steady. Storage basins flatten the peak. Then recharge wells add pressure where the aquifer needs a spine. The research-backed play is simple. Upgrade treatment plants and flood defenses, expand stormwater capture, and use strategic wetlands as salt buffers. Plants that can handle variable salinity don't panic when canals get brackish. Floodproofing keeps lift stations alive when the streets splash. Stormwater capture steals the top off a downpour and turns it into inventory for dry months. Wetlands placed in the right spots slow salt, trap surge, and leak fresh at the edges like a natural check valve. Managed aquifer recharge is the pressure support your groundwater gym forgot. You store clean water underground during the wet season to hold the salt line back. It's not magic, it's hydraulics. Add head inland and the interface stops inching forward. Pull that off and well fields get breathing room. Miss it, and you're blending brackish pulls and apologizing to coffee people. Timing matters. Florida Flood Hub and Climate Center projections help you set the clock. Some coasts need action yesterday because the curve is steeper. Others get a few more budget cycles before high tide flooding becomes a daily calendar item. You don't copy-paste one city's fix to another. You read the gauges, map the basins, and move the money where the water says soon. And here's what nobody tells you. This toolkit isn't red or blue. It's cheaper now than after a storm kneecaps your plant and your bond rating. Voters get prickly about rate hikes. Fair. But they get angrier when the boil notice hits during a heat wave. Say yes to the layered stuff early and you dodge the panic price that shows up with emergency rentals and overnight contracts. Mini payoff, you can't stop the ocean, but you can slow the salt. Stack the defenses, feed the aquifer some pressure, and let coastal wetlands take a punch for the team. That buys you clean taps while the state retools the big systems and the budgets catch up to the tide chart. So what do you do with this info the next time you turn on the faucet? Relative sea level rise isn't a beach problem, it's a kitchen sink problem. The inches we've already logged are the fuse, slowly burning towards your tap. When salt reaches your aquifer, your bill learns a new number. Desal blending, pipelines. None are cheap. All land on you. Like this video so the algorithm thinks I'm important. Subscribe because someday you'll want to escape. Would you drink from a tap that might taste like a low-sodium ocean? Drop a yes or nope in the comments. Want a city-by-city salt risk map and what your bill could look like in 5 years? Say, map me or I'll risk it below.